The day I had my very difficult labor, my husband's first love was also having a baby. I called him many, many times, dozens of calls asking for help, but he never answered his phone. Instead of coming to me, he spent the night at the hospital with his ex-girlfriend. She and her baby were safe, but because of him, my baby and I both died. Afterward, he couldn't believe that I was really dead. He thought I was playing another trick, trying to get him to come back to me. It wasn't until he actually saw our bodies that he completely lost his mind. When I was 9 months pregnant, my husband wasn't even living with me anymore. I woke up in the middle of the night because I was having strong contractions and my water had broken. I was very scared and started to panic because my baby wasn't due yet. I called my husband, David, over and over, but he never picked up. I quickly called for an ambulance while I tried to get dressed through the pain, just trying to get ready to go to the hospital, but then I slipped and fell hard onto the floor and everything went black. When I woke up again, I was already in a car that was rushing towards the hospital. My whole body felt icy cold, like my life was slowly draining away. Someone was holding my hand tightly and saying, "Can you drive faster? The mother is bleeding heavily. It's really dangerous." There was a faint male voice from the front of the car that said, "Okay, I know." Then the car, the ambulance, suddenly swerved and stopped very hard, making everyone scream inside. Something hit my belly with a lot of force, and the pain was so bad I almost passed out again. My body just kept getting colder and colder. The driver yelled angrily, "Who the hell dares to cut off an ambulance? Are you in such a hurry to die?" A girl's voice cried out, "Blood! Blood! She's bleeding again!" A group of people quickly started setting up medical machines and tools, but it was too late for me. My awareness started to fade away. Not long after I was quickly pushed into the emergency room, I died. My soul floated up, looking down at the flat line on the heart monitor next to my body and my stomach that was still big with pregnancy. Both the mother and the child were dead. But where was my husband? As if just thinking about it could make it happen. My soul floated away to another hospital, a fancy private one. I saw my husband, David, sitting nervously outside a delivery room, staring intently at the door. He waited there for a long time, occasionally looking at his phone with a frustrated look. He had dozens of missed calls from me, but he just swiped them away on the screen. He muttered under his breath, "Maria, you have to be okay." Maria was his first love from when he was in college. She was married and pregnant at around the same time I was. It looked like Maria was the person inside that delivery room. After a long time, a doctor came out holding a baby and said to David, "Mother and son are safe. It's a boy. Come see him, Dad." David awkwardly replied, "I'm not his father. I'm just a friend of the mother. Can I go see her?" Souls can't cry, so I could only laugh, laughing at everything that had happened. David, your first love and her baby are safe, but your baby is dead. David rushed into the delivery room as soon as the doctor said it was okay. Maria was covered in sweat with her hair sticking to her face. She weakly turned her head away and said, "Don't look at me. I look awful." David looked at her very gently and said, "You don't look awful. You went through so much." Maria was touched by his words and said, "I didn't expect you to be the only one here by my side when I was most scared. When I started having contractions, I could only think to call you. Thank you for bringing me to the hospital, otherwise." Maria's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what would have happened. I was so scared of dying. I was really scared. David held Maria's hand softly. "It's all in the past now. Rest easy. I'm here." Maria replied softly, and David seemed to love the sound of her voice. Maria was his first love from college. They dated for a short time before she ended things with him, saying they weren't right for each other. Not long after that, she started dating a rich older guy. Her social media pages were full of pictures showing off gifts from him. Expensive cars on her birthday, diamond rings on Valentine's Day. But all the guys who liked Maria were still completely fascinated by her because she seemed as pure and beautiful as her name sounded. She always said she would always be their little sister, no matter who she was with. Maria graduated from college and got married, then she moved abroad with her husband, which made many girls jealous. My husband, David, met me when he came back home and started his own business. We dated for a while and got married, and I became pregnant a year later. David often gently touched my belly and said, If it's a girl, let's name her Maria. I didn't think too much about it at the time. The name sounded nice. It wasn't until we went to a college reunion together and a woman who was also pregnant showed up, immediately getting everyone's attention, including my husband's. From the moment she appeared, David's eyes never left her. She smiled at him and said, "David, long time no see." In that moment, David seemed nervous and stammered, "Maria, you're here? No, you're back?" They called her Maria. I touched my belly, feeling a sudden coldness in my heart. When we got home, I asked David why he couldn't stop looking at Maria. He admitted everything and told me their story. I finally understood who the girl in the white dress in his Instagram profile picture was. David swore, "We're really nothing now. I was just surprised she's back. Don't think too much about it." I didn't want to talk about it anymore because I knew he was lying. His ears were red. David's ears always turned red when he lied. Later, I found out that Maria's marriage was terrible. Her husband often beat her and cheated on her with other women. When she was 5 months pregnant, he beat her so badly, she almost lost the baby. She couldn't take it anymore and came back home. When David heard about this, he was furious. How could anyone not cherish his goddess? That night, he posted a picture on Twitter. It was of the moon covered by clouds. It was a picture of his distant, unattainable first love. Maria liked the post. Ever since Maria came back, David became more and more distracted. He often said he was working late and didn't come home, or he would say he had reunions to go to. But who has reunions 3 times a week? Our conversations became shorter and less frequent. He no longer gently touched my belly, but instead stared at his phone, laughing to himself every day. One day, he came back smelling strongly of perfume, and I finally couldn't stand it anymore. I said to him, "David, let's get a divorce." He frowned and asked me why I was being difficult again. "What do you think? Do you want me to say it clearly?" He was silent for a moment, then finally said with a cold face, "I won't divorce you. I'm really not thinking clearly right now. I'll just move out for a while. Besides, you're pregnant. We can't get a divorce." So, David moved out of the house. He made his Twitter account private so I couldn't see what he was posting anymore. The next time I saw him, I was already dead. It happened when David received a call from a number he didn't know. His face changed from serious to shocked. He stammered, "Dead? They all died. Are you joking?" It turned out the hospital had found David's contact information in my records and called to tell him that I had died. David's phone slipped from his hand, and his face turned pale. "No way, no way. She can't be dead." Before he finished speaking, he seemed to remember the dozens of calls I had made to him. His hands shook as he called my number again. As expected, no one answered. Maria nervously asked, "David, what's wrong?" David didn't even look at her. He stumbled out the door. David arrived quickly at the hospital where I was taken. The hospital had also contacted my parents. When my mother, Sarah, heard the news of my death over the phone, she seemed to faint. I felt a sharp pang of sadness. I had married David even though my parents were strongly against it. They didn't have a specific reason, just that they believed David was a very selfish person who only cared about himself. They said marrying him wouldn't make me happy, but I didn't listen. I said I would make my own choices in life and marry David against their wishes. They were so angry they had stopped talking to me. I had hoped to make peace with them by showing them their grandchild after it was born. But that day would never come now. David burst into the hospital. The doctor asked him to sign the death certificate. Just then, David's parents arrived too. His mother, Mrs. Harris, her cheeks wet with tears, grabbed a nurse and asked, "Wasn't it before her due date? How could she die?" David's voice trembled. "Yeah, was there a mistake during the surgery? She was always healthy." Finally, a nurse who had been with me couldn't stand it anymore. She slammed the notice down on the table and yelled at David, "Are you the husband? You want to blame us? Your wife was about to give birth. Where were you? Why weren't you with her? What kind of husband are you?" She wasn't in the right position, and when she was brought in, she had been hit on the side by a car and had suffered a collision. She died during childbirth. Don't blame others for your own carelessness. David was completely stunned. He mumbled, I. Suddenly, a hand slapped David across the face, making him stumble and fall to the ground. David's father, Mr. Harris, shouted, "You awful man! Where were you while your wife was giving birth? Fooling around!" Confused and seeing blurry shapes from the blow, David covered his face and said, "I was working. I didn't see the calls." His father stepped forward, ready to hit him again. "What work is more important than your wife and child?" David's mother was still crying. Just then, David's phone on the floor lit up. It must have fallen out when he was hit. The incoming call showed Maria calling. David's mother quickly answered it, accidentally hitting the speakerphone button. Maria's voice came through, crying, "David, the baby just had trouble breathing and was taken to the emergency room. I'm so scared. Can you come and be with me? The baby's just been born." David's mother was stunned. Realizing what had just happened, she screamed, "Who are you, you shameless woman? Don't you have a husband? Why are you asking my son to come with you?" David hurried to grab the phone, but his mother smashed it against his face. "Are you trying to make me die from anger? Are you having an affair? I'm asking you, were you at work or with another woman tonight?" David fell to his knees with a loud thud. He finally confessed, "Anna and I have been living separately. Her due date wasn't here yet. I didn't know she was going into labor. The person on the phone was an old classmate whose husband is out of the country. She was also about to give birth and asked me to take her to the hospital, but it's nothing inappropriate." The room became silent. David's father was confused. "Is it me, or are you the one with a problem?" Disbelief was clear on his mother's face. She seemed shocked that she had raised such a foolish person. She pointed at David, unable to find the words to speak. After a few sobs, she collapsed. David's mother had a heart condition and was having a heart attack. Nurses quickly took her to the emergency room while David's father continued to kick him until other people stepped in to stop him. David's father sobbed loudly, "It's my fault. How did I raise such an idiot?" He then turned to look at my body, crying out, "Anna, it's our family that wronged you." Watching this scene made me feel a little sad. In truth, his parents were wonderful people and had always treated me well. They had looked forward to the birth of their grandchild for a long time. But suddenly I felt my floating spirit become more solid. I looked at my hands, seeming to feel touch again. What was happening? A voice suddenly echoed in the air. "That's because you've connected to the damage conversion system." I was surprised. "What system?" "Hello, host. Congratulations on connecting to the damage conversion system. For every bit of damage you cause to those who are responsible for your death, you will get back a bit of your life force. If those who harmed you die, you will be given a chance to be revived." I was overjoyed. "Are you saying I have a chance to live again?" "Yes, host. But whether you can achieve your goal is also closely related to some past good deeds from your previous life." David's mother was saved soon after. After she woke up, she kept crying. David wanted to see her many times, but she wouldn't let him into her room. When David's parents finally agreed to see him, my family had also arrived. Back then, I hadn't listened to my parents and married David far away, which had broken their hearts. This time, I was finally facing the consequences of that. They didn't hide anything and told my parents everything they knew in detail, even kneeling and apologizing to them. My mother, Sarah, was crying her heart out, and my father, Michael, was furious and wanted to beat David up, but David wasn't even there. He was off visiting his first love. She was having a baby alone and needed care the most, apparently. David's mother cried out, "I'm not defending my son. He is a monster I gave birth to. We are so sorry for what we've done to you. But rest assured, I have discussed with my husband, and from now on, David won't get any of our family's money. We're willing to sell the house to give you money as compensation. Over the years, we've saved some money. We will pay for Anna's funeral and cover your future living costs." My mother, in tears, screamed, "Who wants your money? I want my daughter back." David's father said, "I know no amount of money can bring her back, but we don't know what else we can do to make things right with you. Whatever you ask, we will agree to it." My funeral was held with many people crying. His parents spent a lot of money organizing my funeral. David wanted to attend but was stopped at the door by people they hired. David's mother said, "From now on, don't call me mom. We are ending all ties with you. Your father and I have made our wills. Besides giving money to Anna's family, everything else will go to your sister." David couldn't believe it. "So you guys cut off my credit card? Anna is gone. I feel terrible too. But I'm your son." His parents were actually very wealthy, which I only found out after I married into the family. David was still using their credit cards. David's father said coldly, "I don't have a son like you. Don't call me dad anymore. I don't want to be yelled at by our ancestors when I go to the afterlife." At this point, my side of the family saw David and rushed to beat him up. His parents just coldly stepped aside and let David get beaten. David's mother walked into the room where the funeral was held and sighed in front of my photo. "Good child, you saved my life back then, but my son caused your death. Don't worry, I will never forgive him." At this moment, I could clearly feel my body becoming more real. I looked at the injured David and his parents and instantly understood what the system meant by past good deeds. I had once saved David's mother's life. Shortly after I married into the family, David's mother suddenly had heart problems. I was still in a meeting at my company when I got a call from her. I answered it, but before she could say anything, she hung up. Anyone else might have thought it was a mistake, but I felt something was wrong and rushed to her house, getting her to the hospital just in time. It turned out David's mother couldn't speak and had used an emergency contact button, and I was the only one who noticed something was wrong and came to help. The doctor said if I had been a few minutes later, it would have been too late for her. I was so thankful I made it there. During that time, I took care of David's mother day and night, and she was very grateful. She held my hand and said I had saved her life, and she would treat me like a daughter. If I ever had a disagreement with David, I should let her know, and she would never take his side. She kept that promise, even now. Maria was discharged from the hospital. David came to pick her up. He hadn't been sleeping well these days, with dark circles under his eyes and not having shaved. Mariah had somewhat understood what had happened with me. She hugged David with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, it's all because of me. If I hadn't contacted you, Anna wouldn't have died." David was touched and said, "It's not your fault. Anna and I had problems. It can't be blamed on you." But Maria bit her lip, hesitating. "But," she said, "I heard your parents are ending ties with you and cut off your credit card. Are you sure everything's okay?" David avoided looking at her. "It's okay. I'm still their son. They'll calm down eventually." In the car, David played with Maria's baby. The baby curiously grabbed David's finger and smiled innocently. David's face became sad and he whispered, "If my baby had lived, it would be this cute too." Maria placed her hand over David's. "David, it's in the past. Don't think about it. I'll be here with you." David nodded, feeling emotional, and they drove back to Maria's place. I followed them, watching David buy a lot of baby things for Maria and helping carry them upstairs. My heart ached. When I was pregnant, I bought everything myself. David never offered to help, saying those were things women should handle. So he could be caring after all. Maria quickly said, "David, you don't need to buy so much. How can the baby use all this?" David said tenderly, "It's fine. These are things you use up quickly. You're alone with the baby now. I have to help more." Maria, with eyes full of tears, threw herself into David's arms. "David, thank you. Only you treat me this well." David gently stroked her hair. Just as he was about to kiss her, Maria subtly moved away. "David, the baby still needs a crib." David quickly responded, "That's easy. I'll get the one from home. Anna already bought it." He stopped after saying that, then muttered, "Not like it will be used now." I was fuming with anger. He could spend his own money, but taking the crib I bought for our baby just to please her? Even though it was true it wouldn't be used by our baby anymore. David went to get the crib for Maria. Maria walked him to the door. David suddenly turned back. "Maria, do you still plan to get a divorce?" Maria nodded slightly, then added, "But I'm still feeding the baby myself, so I can't divorce right now." David said, "I mean, if it's possible, now that I'm alone with no wife or child and Robert doesn't care about you, maybe the two of us." Maria interrupted David. David, I understand. It's just that now isn't the right time. David quickly responded, I know, it's too soon. But I just wanted to tell you, Maria, that in all these years, you've always had a place in my heart. Tearfully, Maria said, I understand. Maria saw David out of her house, and her sad expression disappeared the moment she turned around. She rolled her eyes without thinking and sat on the bed, opening up Instagram while her child cried beside her, which she ignored. She messaged someone named Robert on Instagram. I just got out of the hospital today. I need to buy a lot of things, and you can't be here to help. At least send some money, okay? The person didn't reply right away, but soon she heard a notification of money being sent to her phone. Maria smiled happily. I laughed too. It was funny how David was just a backup plan, easily controlled by Maria with the smallest effort. He couldn't even stay at her place overnight. Yet he had ruined my life and my baby's life. But soon, David would stop laughing. A video of David kneeling in the hospital begging his parents was posted online. The video was titled, Wife Dies During Childbirth. Husband leaves her to take first love to the hospital. Wife and baby die. Husband kneels and cries. The video quickly became hugely popular, reaching the top of the trending lists locally and beyond. Such shocking news led to a rush of angry comments online, and it didn't take long for people to find out David's identity. They called him out. Found the awful man. David, a manager at a company. How can anyone hire such a terrible person? What kind of person cries in a hospital like that? Does anyone know who the mistress is? If you still love your first love so much, why get married? Isn't it disgusting? Think about it. This guy takes such good care of his first love. The kid must be his, right? David was caught completely off guard by the sudden negative reaction. His phone number had been found somehow and was now ringing constantly with calls and messages. His company quickly announced that they were firing him. David, unwilling to accept this, stormed into the office and argued with the HR lady, saying they had no reason to fire him. The HR lady looked at him with disgust and said, Your personal actions have seriously damaged our company's reputation, causing a negative impact. Mr. David, people are always being watched, even when they think they aren't. Take care of yourself. David was speechless. Even the bosses who had once liked him could barely look at him without showing their contempt. David hid in the break room and cried, feeling like he was about to get a promotion just moments before. Meanwhile, my life force seemed to be slowly coming back to me. The more David suffered, the more harm he experienced, the better it was for me. David drove to Maria's house. As soon as she opened the door, he fell into her arms. But Maria's attitude was different this time. She nervously glanced outside and complained, At such a dangerous time. How dare you come here? What if they find out about me? David was stunned. What are you saying? Maria's face turned pale when she realized she had said something she shouldn't have. She quickly invited David inside. David hugged Maria and said, Get a divorce. Let's leave this place together. I'll treat your child like my own. Maria pushed him away, lowering her head and pretending to be upset. David, I have something to tell you. I think we should stop seeing each other. David's eyes became wide. Why? You know I'm alone with my child now. If those people online find out about me. She hesitated. I don't mind, but what about my child? David, please think about my situation. Besides, I'm not divorced yet. If Robert finds out, I'm in a lot of trouble. David suddenly stood up, pointing at Maria's face and yelling, You changed your mind so quickly. Didn't you say you were getting a divorce from Robert and still loved me, so I agreed to take care of you? Maria said, I didn't expect things to get this bad. David was furious. Then what were you thinking? What was your plan from the beginning? You're getting rid of me now that you're done with me, right? Realizing her game was over, Maria stopped pretending. Her usual sad voice vanished instantly. Coldly, she said, What else? Why do you think I came to you, David? I did consider being with you because your family is rich. But look at you now. Your parents left you nothing in their will. Your house is going to your wife's family and you're unemployed. Why would I be with you? David froze, never imagining Maria would speak to him like this. When did you become so practical? I always thought you were different from other women. Maria replied impatiently, Different? Only men believe in the idea of women who are pure-hearted. Wake up. You should have known that when we broke up in college. It's pathetic. Why would I get a divorce and be with you when you're broke? And, she sneered, a man who ignores his wife when she's in labor? Who would want someone like that? David looked like he had been hit by lightning. In a fit of rage, he punched Maria in the face. Falling to the floor, Maria screamed, Help! David, if you come near me again, the security guards won't let you go. David stared at her, frowning. We won't see each other again. I'm a terrible person, I know that. But you're just as disgusting. With that, David left Maria's house. David was in a terrible state, but I was happy because my life force kept getting stronger. On his way, David received a phone call. The person calling asked, How does it feel to have that video go viral? David frowned. You're the one who posted the video? The caller replied, Yes. David swore. What the hell do you want? Which news company are you from? What do you get out of this? After a moment of silence, the caller said, I'm a classmate of Anna's. I get nothing from this. I just want justice for Anna. He continued, That day in the hospital, my family was there. Later, found out the person who died was my old classmate Anna. Back in school, I was poor, and everyone looked down on me, except Anna. She was kind to me. I can't let her die for no reason. This is the only thing I can do for her. You'll pay for your actions, too. The call ended, and David stayed silent for a long time. Right after the call ended, a reminder popped up on his phone. April 17th, due date. That was the day I was supposed to give birth. David had saved it in his notes. He stared at the reminder and couldn't control himself anymore. He hit the steering wheel hard, then buried his head and sobbed. Why did things end up this way? Seriously, why? I watched David in pain, saying nothing. This was just the beginning of his suffering. This pain he felt now was nothing compared to what I had gone through. The video was still being talked about online, getting more attention, as people who write blogs joined the discussion. David had been exposed so completely that he didn't dare to go outside. David's parents sold the house and gave all the money to my parents as compensation. The house was originally bought outright by them, so they had the right to do that. David, with red eyes, went to his parents' house. I have nothing left. You sold the house. Where am I supposed to go? I'm your child. David's father said coldly, Go to your mistress. She must have a place for you. Besides, being our child doesn't mean anything. You didn't care about Anna, and she was carrying your child. David's mother was heartbroken. You've done something so terrible that we can't even recognize you as our son anymore. David became very angry, banging on the door. What did I do wrong? Just because I didn't answer the phone. I don't deserve to die. Why are all of you pushing me like this? Why? But no one answered, and no one opened the door. David, you're right. You don't deserve to die. But what did I do wrong to deserve marrying someone like you and losing both my child and my life? David left, completely defeated. He contacted a friend who sells cars, hoping to sell his car and start a new life in another city. But on the day he was supposed to sell it, he ran into trouble. A well-dressed man surrounded him in the alley with about a dozen strong men with him. David sensed danger. Who are you? The man didn't answer. He walked towards David, smiling. Do you like the green hat on my head? What? David started to reply, but was knocked down by a sudden punch. I'm Robert, the man said through clenched teeth. He played a recording on his phone. It was the conversation between David and Maria. Maria, are you thinking about divorce? I can't now. I'm still feeding the baby. But if it's possible, now my wife and child are gone and your husband doesn't care, maybe we could. David, I get what you're saying. It's just the timing isn't right. I know. I'm just saying there's always been a place for you in my heart, Maria. David's face turned pale. Robert chuckled. Ignoring your own family to mess with mine and hitting on my wife on top of that? You think I'm an idiot? David trembled. No, it's not what you think. You believe what Maria says? I know what kind of person she is. Your mess has me flying back from abroad just to fix it, Robert sneered. How do you plan to fix this? Terrified, David said, "Nothing happened between Maria and me. You're misunderstanding." "Do you think I believe you?" Robert said with a cold smile, signaling his men. "Go beat him. If he dies, it's my responsibility." The men attacked, and David's screams of pain echoed through the alley. I couldn't listen to it anymore. David was eventually found unconscious by people passing by and taken to the hospital. Even though he was covered in blood, his injuries were mostly not serious. Except for one thing: his ability to have children had been permanently damaged. Someone had intentionally and brutally attacked him there. The doctor sadly told David he would never be able to have children again. David stared blankly at the ceiling, his face showing no signs of life. Maria didn't fare much better. Her husband, Robert, was absolutely convinced she had cheated on him. He beat Maria severely, ruining her face that had once been beautiful. He also shared screenshots of her flirting text messages with various men, flooding all her social media groups, including David's old school groups. It turned out Maria had been controlling many men at once. David was just her favorite one at the time. She had called each man Tim and gotten money from all of them. The story about her being a victim of domestic violence was a lie. She had been trying to attract rich men abroad, got caught, and came back home to avoid getting divorced. But this time, her husband did abuse her physically. After a bitter fight in court, Maria finally got a divorce but didn't get any money from him and lost custody of her child. Who knows if that kid was Robert's or someone else's? Her reputation was destroyed and she was completely broken. David's injuries started to heal, but his ability to have children was beyond repair. Someone at the hospital recognized David, and news of his injury spread, becoming the final part of the online video scandal. People said, "Served him right. Tried to save someone else's kid but lost his own and now can't have any more." Our house was sold quickly. David's parents, still feeling a little bit of pity for him, left him some money to start over somewhere else. Before the house was sold, David managed to take some of our things. To my surprise, he took our photo album and some of the baby items I had prepared. Since he couldn't go outside because of his injuries and the public attention, he often started drinking heavily. He bought a lot of alcohol, crying over my photos as he drank. He would often gently touch my pictures, sobbing. "If only you were still here. I've been punished enough. Please come back." See, when I treated him well, he threw me away like trash. Now, abandoned by everyone, he suddenly loved me again. Too bad, though, I had no pity left for him. My health points were getting stronger and stronger. The system told me I was just one step away from coming back. He could keep living in a confused state, but if he got hurt again, I would have enough energy to come back to life. The system offered me a chance to enter his dream. Do you want to hurt him in exchange for a chance to come back to life? I looked at David. He was already in a really bad condition. Of course I said yes. I made a deal with the system. I used all the health points I had gained for one chance to enter a dream. Whether I would come back to life depended on this one opportunity. The system said, "Are you that determined?" I nodded. I have nothing to lose if I fail, and if I win, I can come back to life. Why wouldn't I? As soon as I said the words, a bright white light started shining all over me. My life force was quickly disappearing. "How do you plan to enter the dream?" the system asked. "Make him go through everything I went through that night," I said. David was woken up by sharp pain in his stomach. He was shocked to see that his body had turned into a woman who was 9 months pregnant, and his face had turned into mine. "What? How could this happen? Why do I look like Anna?" The constant pain was unbearable. He quickly took out his phone and called David. The call was quickly declined. As he was about to get up and call for an ambulance, David sent him a photo. It was a close-up picture of David and Maria together. He was so shocked that he stumbled and fell heavily to the ground because he lost his balance. Fluid mixed with blood spread all over the floor. In the empty room, no one could hear his cries of pain. He called for an ambulance, giving the address through clenched teeth, and kept calling David, just like I did that night. He seemed to want to change the outcome of the story, but it was useless. He soon lost consciousness. When he woke up again, he was in an ambulance. When David woke up, a nurse was holding his hand. Driver, can you go faster? The patient is bleeding severely. It's dangerous. He vaguely heard a man's voice from the front of the ambulance. All right, I got it. The ambulance suddenly skidded and braked hard, causing everyone to scream. Something hit his abdomen violently, making him nearly faint from the pain. The driver cursed. Who the hell dares to cut off an ambulance? Got a death wish? Someone shouted, Blood! She's bleeding again! A group of people quickly started attaching medical equipment to David, but it was too late for him. David couldn't speak from the pain, but his will to survive made him try to listen to every word around him. And then he heard, Take a picture of that car that cut us off. A black Mercedes E89 T7. David's eyes widened instantly. He knew that car. It was his car. The truth was, back then, he had cut off the ambulance in a rush to get Maria to the hospital, causing the second crash that killed me after the emergency doctors couldn't save me. I died because of him. He was the one to blame. The dream ended. David sat on the bed in silence, holding photos of us from when we were happy together. Pictures from when we were dating, our wedding photos. The photos of him being overjoyed when he learned I was pregnant. I'm sorry, he whispered. It's all my fault. I ruined everything. He stumbled around the room. The recent shocks had broken his mind. He drank a bottle of alcohol and suddenly opened the curtains that had been closed for a long time. He hadn't seen sunlight in days. The sunlight was incredibly bright and hurt his eyes. He covered his eyes as tears streamed down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. After saying sorry countless times, he finally opened the window and jumped out. The sound of people on the street gasping came from below as his body hit the ground and made a blood-red shape like a flower. This was the ending David chose for himself. Before I could fully understand everything, the system's voice spoke again. Congratulations, host. You've successfully completed the harm conversion, earning a chance to come back to life. Preparing for revival. Countless white lights came together and went into my body, making me feel dizzy. Countdown. 3, 2, 1 inch. Clear the area up front. Doctors, get ready. The patient is in critical condition. Scissors, curved hemostat. Pass them to me. Keep monitoring the heart rate. It's no good. The baby is already gone. Focus on saving the mother. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. My mother was right beside me. When she saw I was awake, she cried, You finally woke up. You scared Mom to death. Soon, everyone knew I was awake. My father and brother rushed over along with David's parents and even David himself. David held my hand with excitement. Anna, it's wonderful you woke up. That's when I realized the system had turned back time to the day I was rescued. But this time I had survived, although the baby hadn't made it. I slowly pulled my hand away from David's grasp. David's expression changed. Anna? I forced a painful smile. That night? Where were you? My sudden question confused everyone in the room. My mother asked, Anna, what are you talking about? David quickly responded, I'm sorry, Anna. I was working late and missed your call, but I came as soon as I saw it. I asked my mother to bring me my phone. When I checked it, to my shock, there was only one record of a call to David. What was going on? Did I remember it wrong? Was it all just a dream? David looked at me gently. It's all my fault, Anna. I know losing the baby is a huge blow, but we can have more children in the future. For now, you need to take care of yourself, okay? David's mother added, I already told David off. I told him if he ignores you for work again, I'll say he's not my son anymore. Everyone in the room seemed to be happy that I was okay. I didn't say much more. David was really very attentive, refusing to leave my side. Even when I asked him to go pay the bills, he wouldn't leave. He bought me whatever I wanted. He took a break from work to stay with me, saying his wife was the most important thing, and he wanted to appreciate everything he had now. Other women in the hospital room were jealous of me, jealous of my obedient and wealthy husband. I just smiled faintly and said nothing. This behavior was strange. If nothing had really happened, and David just missed my calls because of work, he wouldn't be acting so nice. Our relationship had already fallen apart before this. At least Maria's existence wasn't a lie, was it? Soon after, I made an excuse to get David to leave, and after some searching, I found the nurse who had been in the ambulance that night. The nurse was surprised to see me. It's you! It's amazing that you survived. She glanced at my flat stomach and tried to comfort me. You have no idea how critical your condition was that day. Keeping you alive was truly a miracle. I quickly asked, was the ambulance stopped by another car on the way to the hospital that day? The nurse replied, yes, we were scared to death at the time. My suspicion was confirmed. I smiled faintly and asked, do you remember the license plate number? The license plate number? I don't remember, she said. But let me think. I seem to recall the driver saying something about a Mercedes E. So that was it. Nothing had changed after all. I hadn't remembered it wrong. So why did my call logs only show one call? Why did him taking Maria to the hospital turn into him working overtime? Because those records were deleted by David. David had also come back to this time with his memories. David played the role of a perfect husband next to me every day, and I played the role of a good wife. We never mentioned Maria's name again, and David still gave me his phone every day. As I expected, there was no information about Maria left on his phone. Because he understood her true nature after his experience, he willingly cut ties with her and acted like he didn't know anything in front of me. Soon after, I was discharged from the hospital. On the day I was discharged, I suggested we have a family dinner with everyone. The child was gone, but life had to continue, right? David looked at me approvingly and said, "You're right." I smiled back at him. David booked the best hotel in the city, ordered the most expensive dishes, and invited all our family and friends. He said, "After this incident, I realized just how much I love my wife. From now on, I'll always be by her side and grow old with her." I stood up, still smiling, and said I had a gift for all the guests. Then I asked the hotel staff to turn on the giant screen projector. This hotel was very good. Even the projection was so clear. I played a video for them that I had specifically copied from the camera on the dashboard of the ambulance. The video showed how an ambulance was blocked by a Mercedes and how a bleeding pregnant woman was carried from the ambulance into the hospital. Everyone was stunned, especially David. I could see the cold sweat running down his face. Yes, his worst fear had come true. I looked at David and said, "David, I'll ask you one more time. That night when I was in labor and called you dozens of times without an answer, were you working overtime or taking your first love, Maria, who was also in labor, to the hospital, even blocking my ambulance and causing my child to die inside me?" David's legs became weak and he almost couldn't stand. He looked at me with pleading eyes, as if begging me not to embarrass him. "Answer me!" David's father stood up angrily and shouted. "What happened? Wasn't that Mercedes the car your wife gave you as part of her dowry? Where were you that night?" My mother urgently pulled my sleeve and said, "Anna, what are you doing?" I said, "I want the people responsible for the loss of my child to pay." David looked at me with his eyes not focusing clearly. This was what he feared the most. That feeling of losing everything had come back to him. He suddenly knelt on the ground and confessed, "That night, I was with Maria." Under my pressure, David told everyone everything. That night, Maria suddenly went into labor. He took her to the hospital and accidentally blocked my ambulance. He also admitted to deleting the call records from my phone. But he didn't mention his experiences in the other world. He only said he lied because he was afraid of losing me. He had finally gotten a chance to change everything and didn't want to lose it again. The dinner party I had planned turned into complete chaos. Some people just watched the spectacle as David's parents yelled at him, and my mother advised me, "Anna, you've gotten your anger out. Let's just leave it at that." She continued, "Why should I let it go? You're standing here now. You're okay. David has admitted his mistakes, and his parents are good people. Isn't it better to forgive when you can? What man doesn't make mistakes?" I laughed with anger. "Mom, what if I had died? What if because of David, both I and the baby had died? Would you still ask me to forgive him?" "But you're not dead, are you?" she said. I shook my head firmly and said, "I won't forgive him. Not a single punishment should be missed. My child's life was a life, and it's not something David's simple apology can make up for." Afterward, David came to me privately, begging me not to divorce him. He said he was willing to make up for his mistakes, even if it took the rest of his life. I said, "David, You came back with your memories, right? Was your world destroyed after I died and you got scared? David looked at me like he couldn't believe it. How did you know? I didn't tell him how I knew. How could I explain that I watched him as a spirit after being killed? Plus, I knew he didn't truly love me. He was clinging to me like a lifeline after being abandoned by the world. He wanted to return to a life where he was respected and wealthy. Besides, if he loved me, how could he so easily cut ties with Maria, making up lies just to get close to me again? The only person he truly loved was himself. David's eyes turned red. Can't you give me one more chance? We can have another child. I promise I will make things right. Even my parents said they would give you all their money. Do you have to be so heartless? I looked at David, his face not shaved, looking just like he did when the world turned its back on him. I nodded. Yes, I have to. David refused to agree to the divorce. He said as long as he didn't agree, I couldn't get what I wanted. His parents no longer got involved. Although they hated what their son had done, the fact that I had survived made David's mistakes seem less terrible to them. Do you really need to push it to the point of a divorce? Can't you give him a chance? Many people ask me this, but how could they understand my personal experience? If that system hadn't existed, even I wouldn't be standing here now. Besides, who gave my child a second chance? Unless you have suffered deeply yourself, don't tell others to be kind. I hired a specialized lawyer to talk to David about the divorce case, and things became more serious from there. The local news, always wanting a story, reported on it. David's actions that night spread very quickly throughout this small town. This time, the public reaction was not as strong as before, but David was still fired from his job. Eventually, I won the divorce case. Our shared money and property were split in half, and I received a large amount of money as compensation from David. David's mother later came to me and said that no matter what happened between David and me, she would always think of me as her daughter. What was wrong was wrong. She wouldn't protect David. I nodded and held the old lady's hand. I have always been thankful to her. Later on, David came to me looking desperate. He said he had lost his job, had no work, and his parents had told him they didn't want anything to do with him anymore. He couldn't pay the compensation money. I smiled and told him another piece of news. Do you know Robert is coming back to the country? When David heard Robert's name, his face changed completely. The man who had ruined David's life, that was his real nightmare. I said softly, Robert somehow found out about all of this, and now he's demanding a divorce from Maria. I heard he even plans to come after you, so take care. David left the city the next day, but not before the compensation money was sent to my bank account. From that day on, we had no more connection. David and I were finished. What was wrong was wrong. There is no way to fix things or erase regret in this world. Not forgiving him was the best outcome for both of us.